The night in Japan carried a strange kind of silence, the kind that wraps itself around you and makes even the brightest city lights feel distant. Tokyo was alive as always, cars passing, people laughing, neon signs glowing. But for Taehyung, Namjoon, and Hosek, the world felt slower, heavier. It had only been a short time since Hosek lost his grandmother, someone who meant more to him than words could ever fully explain. The person who raised him, who filled his childhood with warmth, who believed in him long before the world ever knew his name. And now, she was gone. Hoseok, who was always the brightest energy in the room, had gone quiet. The sunshine everyone relied on had dimmed, replaced by a silence that said everything he could. Taehyung noticed it immediately. He noticed the way Hosek smiled less, the way his eyes didn't light up the same way, the way he walked a little slower, like something inside him was holding him back. And Taehyung, being who he is, could just stand by and watch. So that night, whether it was his idea or something they all silently agreed on, they stepped outside together. Namjoon walked with them too, steady and calm, like an anchor holding everything in place. He did say much, but his presence alone felt reassuring, like someone quietly making sure nothing falls apart. The streets of Japan stretched endlessly in front of them, glowing under soft lights. Instead of heading somewhere loud or crowded, they kept walking, turning into quieter streets, letting the noise of the city fade behind them. It wasn't about where they were going. It was about getting Hosek out of the weight he was carrying. They eventually found themselves in a small, peaceful park tucked away between buildings. Nothing special at first glance, but sometimes the simplest places hold the most comfort. The air felt softer there. Taehyung slowed down, taking it all in, almost like he chose that spot for a reason. He sat down, letting the silence settle instead of trying to fill it. Because sometimes healing doesn't come from words, it comes from just being there. Hosek sat beside him, still quiet, still lost somewhere deep in his thoughts. You could almost feel the storm inside him. The regret of not being there in her final moments. The memories playing over and over again. The ache of losing someone who shaped your entire world. Taehyung did try to fix it. He did it. Instead, he gave Hosek something much more important. Space to feel without being alone. Namjoon stayed close, watching over both of them, understanding that this moment didn't need solutions. It needed presence. It needed understanding. Time passed slowly. The wind moved gently through the trees, and the distant city lights flickered like quiet reminders that life was still moving forward, even if it did feel like it. Then, in his own soft and thoughtful way, Taehyung began to shift the atmosphere, not by forcing happiness, but by reminding Hosek of something deeper, that the people we lose don't truly leave us. They stay in the smallest things, in the habits they taught us, in the love they gave us, in the person we became because of them. And Hoseki, he was living proof of that love. His kindness, his warmth, his light. That didn't come from nowhere. It came from her. Slowly, something began to change. Not completely, not all at once, but just enough. The heaviness in Hoseok's shoulders started to ease. His breathing became a little steadier. The silence around him didn't feel as suffocating anymore. At one point, Taehyung even stepped away for a moment, returning with something small but meaningful. Warm drinks from a vending machine. Grand gesture, but it didn't need to be. Sometimes comfort is found in the simplest things. They sat together, quietly holding on to that warmth, letting it seep into the cold spaces grief had created. And in that moment, under the soft glow of the night, something beautiful happened. Hosek didn't suddenly stop hurting, but he did feel alone anymore. And that made all the difference. Taehyung, with his quiet understanding, had reminded him that it's okay not to be okay. That even someone known as Sunshine is allowed to have cloudy days. And Namjoon, with his steady presence, reminded him that strength doesn't always mean standing tall. It sometimes means allowing yourself to lean on others. As they finally stood up and began walking again, the city did feel as distant. The light seemed warmer. The air felt lighter. And Hoseok, he took a deeper breath this time. Because even though the pain was still there, it was no longer overwhelming. He was carrying it. But now he wasn't carrying it alone. 3 figures walked side by side through the glowing streets of Japan, not just as bandmates, not just as friends, but as something deeper. A quiet kind of family. And somewhere, beyond what the eyes could see, a grandmother's love remained, soft, constant, and forever a part of him. And maybe, just maybe, that night wasn't about forgetting the pain. It was about learning how to live with it together.